you to please welcome our next talker up onto the stage. Tammy Plunkett has a love affair with words. She wrote her first book at the tender age of 14. She's been an avid reader and a prolific writer ever since. Today, she's a certified professional coach, an award-winning, best-selling published author, and an entrepreneur. She's passionate about giving women a voice while she empowers them to connect to their story and to use that to fuel their writing and their business. Tammy is the founder of Big Sky Author Services, where she leads a team of dedicated women who aim to create a legacy from your message and taking you on the journey from idea to holding that book in your hand. Please welcome Tammy Plunkett.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. You guys rock. This is the best place to be to speak, I just have to say. So I am here to tell you, to sell you on the idea that you are a thought leader, that all of you have a book inside of you, or a talk. You can talk at Women Talk, or you can write the whole book. But I'm here to tell you that this is your destiny. So who has ever done a dream board? This is a kind of room where everybody's done a dream board, or a future visualization of some sort. Now, who has ever had Oprah on their dream board? Come on, I can't be the only one. Who has ever dreamed of being Oprah? I wanted that stage. Who wants to be Ellen? I know Bridget wants to be Ellen. Yeah. And Tony Robbins, I know you. Oh, Bridget, come see. This is how I imagine Sue and Bridget when they're 90. Except, one of them got a real bad tan in the tanning booth, but otherwise. Yeah, okay. So I'd like you to take 10 seconds and close your eyes and ground yourself. Take a deep breath. Put 2 feet on the ground. And imagine yourself at the end of your life. A ripe old age of 99, 110. And I want you to imagine what you want to look back on your life to have been like. Knowing that your family is well taken care of and loved and happy. What else do you need to have had in your life to be on your deathbed and know that you've lived a full, rich, fulfilling life, and to die with no regrets? What matters to you? Okay, you can open your eyes. Hold that. This is my mom. And me. Oh, I wasn't going to do this. At my book launch 4 years ago. Thank you. When Bridget was asking for our most celebrated, proud moment, that was my proudest moment, was at my book launch. My mom passed away on May 26th this year. And a month after she passed, Bridget asked me to give the inspirational talk at Women Talk in June. So I sat there shattered in my most vulnerable spot, thinking, what the hell am I going to write and talk about? So I decided to talk about sitting shattered in that valley of despair and to share the lessons of where I was and what I was going through. So I spoke in front of 50 women, and I used my story as a mirror to their lives. And I told them that and it's been said here, by being with your deepest emotions, the good, the bad, and the devastating, that you can be a better teacher, a better intuitive, a better healer, a more creative person, because you're feeling the richness of life. That was the lesson I shared that day. A month later, Paula Cook, the Women Talk Calgary sponsor, came up to me at the end of her talk and tears just pouring out of her eyes, thanking me for being vulnerable enough and going to that spot. Because she was able to then be with the pain of her sister being diagnosed with cancer and showing up fully for her and sitting in her valley of despair. So that night, I was a thought leader. I was a thought leader because I dared to show up, not because I was coming up with anything new. My talk that night was actually based on a book by Glennon Melton Doyle, and it's called Love Warrior, excellent book. But I was a thought leader that night. So what is a thought leader? A thought leader is someone who puts out into the world a new or not so new, innovative, inspirational, motivational idea or habit that changes us. It changes what we do on a daily basis. We create new habits and we have new ways of being. And you could be a thought leader at your kitchen table in your family. You can be a thought leader at work, and you can be a thought leader in your community like Bridget is, and you can be a thought leader in the world like she will be. Now, have the inner critics come up yet and said, yeah, but, who am I? Yeah, but, I don't know, I'm not an expert in anything. You don't have to be an expert in anything. You didn't need a PhD in shoe tying to teach your son how to tie his shoes. You either were taught by someone else or you tried and failed enough on your own to figure it out, and then you were able to teach someone else. The same thing applies to every lesson that you've learned in life. You have learned and you have fallen on your face and you've gotten back up, and then you are qualified to teach someone else. We are here, I firmly believe, to teach the people who are 2 steps behind us on our path. So your thought leader voice is that sweet spot between your story, and your story is your why, your deep-seated why, your values, all of the lessons that you've learned in life, all of your experiences. That's what creates your story. And then there is your message. What's that one thing, that one lesson that just calls to you, and you're the first person to talk about it, and you're the first person everybody comes to see you for. That sheet that we handed out, we're going to work on it in a little bit, but it was a game that I was playing at my table where you could actually pick a card and decide if you want more of it or less of it in your life. And that helps to decide what your message is. If you're watching the news and you see things go by, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes by on the news, but there's that one story that grabs you, that's part of your message. And when your story and your message come together, they create your unique voice. So Sheryl Sandberg says that people don't have brands, we have a voice. And your unique voice is that combination of your story and your message. So my unique voice is about giving women a voice. And the reason why is because my whole life, I was silenced. As far back as I can remember, I was 5 years old, and we moved from Toronto to Montreal. I was 5, so in Ontario, you start school early. You have pre-kindergarten or junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten. By the time I was 5, I was ready to go into grade 1, and I was smart. And I knew I was smart, and I loved it. And I head over to Montreal, and they're like, well, there's this new law, Bill 101, and you have to go to French school, not English school. I knew not a word of French, and they throw me into this French school, and they wanted me to ask to go to the bathroom in French. Well, I'm a lot pig-headed, and I said, okay, and I didn't go to the bathroom all day, and I would pee myself in the bus every day on the way home. So my mother walked me into the school after a couple of weeks of peeing myself every day, and like, what's going on? So I was silenced. And then when I was a teenager, I was sexually abused by my stepfather. And his way of silencing me was to tell me that if I ever told, my mom would commit suicide. And after witnessing a suicide attempt, I knew to keep my mouth shut. And then I was silenced myself. I silenced myself because I did not have the Leave It to Beaver family. I didn't have the Leave It to Beaver family when I was a child, by a long shot. And then I got married and got divorced. Leave It to Beaver never got divorced. They wore pearls while they vacuumed. And then my oldest daughter became a drug addict and a cutter, and we were navigating the mental health facilities and, while I was launching a book and trying to smack on this, I've got my shit together face, I'm trying to take care of my daughter who did not want to be taken care of. And then by the time my third child came out as transgender, I had decided I am no longer going to be silent. And I share my truth. So sharing your truth has become my message. And giving women a voice is my unique voice and how I help people in the world. And now, that's enough about me. We're going to look at what your unique voice is. So take out your pens and let's get to work. You guys didn't know you were writing a book today, did you? I'm making you work. You get to know me, you work. Accountability is big in the writing coaching industry because that inner critic likes to ride roughshod over every writer.
She's not lying.
Yeah, Bridget's worked with me. So what is a big lesson that you learned in life? I want you guys to take a couple of seconds and think about this and write it down. And while you're writing, those of you who need a voice in your head at the same time, I want you to think back at Bonnie's story. And I want you to think back at Sam's story. We all shared stories today on the stage. You all have stories. And don't go crazy. Think of the first story that comes to your mind. Was it the time that you wanted a brownie and there was none in the house because that damn brother-in-law of yours ate it all? Or is it that deep story? What is the story? Who were you the week before you learned your lesson? This is story structure. Sam described who she was before she turned to joy. We all learned who she was. We learned who Bonnie was too when she went into that shell. So anytime you're reading a story or you hear a story on stage, you always start with who the person was before the inciting incident is the word in the industry. And then you have to show us who you were after the lesson because we need hope. We need to know that there is an answer. We need to know that there is something to look forward to. And that change is possible. How will your reader be changed after reading this book? They will see themselves in who you were before and who you were after. They come along the ride with you. So who were you before and who were you after? And then your message. That sort of is kind of on the front page as well. What is it that you need to have more of in the world, and what do you need to have less of in the world? The theme this weekend has been that we need more female energy in this world. We need women to be in leadership positions. We need the soft leadership. Who is your audience is key. If I could drill this into people's heads. If you are talking about animal rights, if that is your message, if that's your thing, that you just can't change the channel when that comes on TV, then your audience are people who are interested in animal rights. Who is your audience? Is it the disenfranchised, women, people of color, the First Nations, the LGBT community, children? There are so many causes out there. What is the one that sings to you? And how will they be changed? What is it that your lesson is offering them that will change their lives? And this is how you start a book. Now, there are little books and there are big books. I'm talking about the big books this weekend. I have done anthologies. I've been in 2 of them. I've done one with Bridget. It's really good. We're very happy with it, and we're actually doing another one, which is share a lesson and a recipe from your mom. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that next anthology. But anthologies are like going to McDonald's. I like going to McDonald's every once in a while. I only eat the fries. I'm vegan. But they have really good frickin' fries. And McDonald's is good if you're on a road trip and you need to stop and you need a quick and fast meal. But a thought leadership book is a gourmet meal. It's a 7-course meal. It goes through the whole deal. And sometimes those are really good. So you need to make your decision sometimes. Is my thought leadership and my message to the world and this lesson that I want to impact the world with a happy meal or a gourmet meal? So this is what's possible when you write a book. I told you I'm selling you on the idea of writing a book. Brene Brown was a social worker and a researcher. Who knows the book that she wrote before The Gifts of Imperfection? There's a couple of you who know that she wrote about a book called I Thought It Was Just Me. Yeah, now more hands come up. And then she did this TED Talk, and she has 6.7 million views. I checked before putting the slide up. She may have more now. On the power of vulnerability, and that totally changed her career. And then she's taught courses with Oprah. She has been on Oprah. Her dream board of having Oprah actually came true. And now she does speeches and works in corporations with culture shifters is what she calls them. I love that word, culture shifters. And she's just put out a new book, Braving the Wilderness, excellent book. So this is what's possible. She only wrote 1 book, and then she wrote more, and then she was on stages. Lewis Howes, who has excellent female energy and is why he made it on my slide, even though he has a Y chromosome. He wrote a book called The School of Greatness, and then launched a podcast called The School of Greatness. If you haven't checked out that podcast, it is phenomenal. He interviews all of the best thought leaders, very heart-centered, very spiritual people, and very successful business owners as well. It's a great podcast. And now he speaks everywhere. He was speaking in Toronto a month ago. All my best girlfriends went and saw him. And he's an entrepreneur. He teaches other entrepreneurs how to launch successful online businesses. So that was possible for him after writing a book. Oh, and he was an athlete. He started out as an athlete. And he's very vulnerable. He talks about being sexually abused. His next book is The Masks of Men, I think, or something along that line. And he talks about men taking off the mask. And then Gabrielle Bernstein took the reins from Michelle, I'm looking at you. From Marianne Williamson, who does the Course in Miracles. And she sort of translated it for the millennials and has a lot of books on spirituality. She leads workshops and retreats and, speaks at Wanderlust and lots of wonderful places like that. And launched a jewelry collection called Spirit Junkie Collection. And she's got the best oracle cards as well. So she's become an entrepreneur. But how did she start? She wrote a book. So what I'm trying to sell you on is the diversity of people as well. You've got a social worker, you've got an athlete, you've got a spiritual leader, and then you've got Malala, who is a student trying to get everybody to understand how important it is to have an education. You've got a nun who is feeding the poor, whose messages we still talk about today, long after she's passed. We've got a CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi, who hasn't written a book yet, but I haven't gotten to her yet. But if you want an example of how to be a female in leadership and how to shift a culture, she does speak, and she is on stages. And then our beloved Louise Hay. If you're wondering if you're too old to start, she started at 65. And look at the legacy she has left behind for us. It is a phenomenal legacy. So let's talk about what's possible for you. If you look back at your sheet and that story you've started to write and that message that you want to put out in the world, whose life can you change? Can you change one person's life, and is it worth it? Can you change 1,000 lives, and is that worth it? I want you to change lives. So if you are thinking of writing a book and you need help getting that idea crystallized, I'm offering a 45-minute unpack your book idea. Come to my table and we'll make an appointment. It's free. And then when you've got that big book idea and you need help writing it, I can help you write it. And if you need it, and if it's done and you need to publish it, I can help you publish it. And then you take that book and you create a signature talk and you go see Jackie and you get on those stages and you change lives because we need you to be changing lives. The end.